My name is Roosevelt Pettiford. I am 50 years old, and I spent the last 18 years of my life in prison, wrongfully convicted, fighting to overturn the life sentence because life in Michigan means you die in prison, basically a death sentence. And I am 100% innocent, and I have the evidence to prove it if you're interested in listening. I was wrongfully convicted of murder when an overzealous prosecutor presented a false narrative to the jury, and the lead detective in the case committed perjury to the jury when he falsely testified that the only eyewitness to the entire crime could not be located for trial because she gave him a bogus address and he could not find her. Then the prosecutor responded at trial, if that's her real name, giving the jury the impression that the witness did not want to testify. That was far from the truth, because 8 years later, private investigator Scott Lewis located the witness, and in her affidavit, she stated the shooter was short and had on a ski mask when he shot and killed the victim, described as someone different than me. More importantly, the witness stated that that was her real address the police had at trial. She also stated she gave the police her job number, her church number, and signed a written statement telling the police the shooter was short and had on a ski mask. But the police did not want that to come to the light, in which the defense never got that witness statement for trial because it did not fit the false narrative the prosecutor wanted to tell the jury. Another witness who falsely accused me of the crime told the police she saw me shoot and kill the victim. That's why I was arrested and charged with murder. But at a preliminary examination, she testified she lied on me because the victim's family paid her to lie, and she also had a vendetta against me for fighting with her niece. Instead of the prosecution and the police doing more investigating, they locked the witness up for telling the truth that she lied on me. This witness was locked up for months before trial, and she still testified at a full day of trial that I am innocent, and she lied on me because she was mad at me and the victim family had paid her to lie. I have her confessing this to the integrity unit on tape if you want to take a minute to listen to it. So there is absolutely no testimony I committed the crime, no physical evidence, no gun, no prints, and no DNA, and no confession. I was wrongfully convicted because of the false narrative the prosecutor gave to the jury when she argued that the witness was lying and she did see me kill the victim. The prosecutor told the jury that the people seen the witness running and she was running. But the lady who was actually running was the real witness who the detective falsely testified and said she gave him a bogus address and he could not find her for trial. The false narrative came into play because the real witness to the crime was replaced with the lying witness who told them she lied on me. I was found guilty and sentenced to life without parole with absolutely no evidence or testimony I killed anybody. Hold on, let me go back. I was taken from my original judge and placed in front of this biased judge named Annette Berry, who heard misdeeds about me by a police officer who had nothing to do with the case I was in court about. I asked Judge Berry could she recuse herself from my case since she heard those things about me, and Judge Berry said no, she will not recuse herself and she can be fair. Judge Berry was never fair and was totally biased against me by her actions and how she treated me. She denied my motion to quash the bind over I filed because the witness never testified I did the crime at the preliminary examination. You can check the transcripts for that. Judge Berry was totally on the prosecution's side when she granted the prosecutor's motion to take my phone and my business while I was preparing for my case, not being able to talk to anybody. The prosecutor lied and said I was talking to witnesses which she never proved with a shred of evidence. At every court date, I would speak up in my defense, and Judge Berry would tell me to be quiet. She did not want me to talk. I guess she didn't want me to have anything on the record to show her bias. I asked Judge Berry, could I take a polygraph test, and she ignored me, and I got frustrated and cussed at Judge Berry and the prosecutor because she kept lying, because the prosecutor kept lying, and Berry was riding with her 100%. I changed lawyers, and I hired another lawyer to represent me, but she sent her husband to file as being my attorney. Her husband got a 90-day postponement to prepare for trial. I never saw her or her husband until I seen her visiting another client in the jail. So she sent her husband that day to see me instead, 11 days before trial. I went into the court and I complained to Judge Berry about me not hiring him, but I hired the lady. I said, I did not hire him, Judge. And I said, I was trained. And she said, well, that's too bad. You're trying to stall. And she's forced me to go to trial with these two attorneys who did no preparation for trial. And I was fighting a capital murder trial for my life. I did not get disrespectful with Judge Berry, and I explained the canons of the lawyer and the judge and what they're supposed to do with their client. Judge Berry was biased or indifferent and told me the canons was to one's own interpretation. I asked Judge Berry, could she recuse herself since I cussed at her? Judge Berry stated again, no, she could be unbiased and fair to me. I calmly explained to Judge Berry, how could we start a trial and I never saw my attorney? Judge Berry told me to be quiet, and if I continued to talk, that I would be sitting in the bullpen listening to my trial. Judge Berry went as far as to have a speaker installed in the bullpen to show she was serious with her threat, and I was having trial even though I never saw my attorneys, so how could I be prepared for trial? At trial, Judge Berry was pro-prosecutor and ruled with the prosecution on all her objections. Judge Berry was very rude towards the defense, and she impeded most of their cross-examinations by saying, ask, answer, move on, and blowing her breath, irritated, things that doesn't show up on the record, but giving the jury an impression that she believed the defendant is guilty. Judge Berry was very rude to the defense alibi witness, Patricia, when Patricia was explaining that it was Rosa Parks' funeral. That's how she remembered the date and the time of the crime. Judge Berry, acting as prosecutor, hollered at the witness, saying the witness was playing the race card, giving the jury the impression that the alibi witness was doing wrong, detracted from the witness's testimony, so basically playing the prosecutor again. Judge Berry did everything she could to give the jury the impression that I was guilty too by the way she talked to me, the defense witnesses and the defense attorneys, who she kept shutting down when questioning the prosecution witnesses. Judge Berry promised the jury she would bake them cupcakes for being such a patient jury when the prosecution all of a sudden took a week off break in the middle of my trial to attend a funeral. So you know the jury was tired. They didn't want to take this up showing she was pro-prosecutor. But at the same time, this was 2 weeks, so they already been off a whole week, you know what I'm saying? And then now, this will not get found guilty the next week because they don't want to go into a whole new week after deliberating 3 days. After I was found guilty, Judge Berry did not allow the defense to poll the jury and let them out the back door to make sure we did not get a chance to talk to a single jury who deliberated 3 days, so they must have had doubt. I don't remember all Judge Berry said at sentencing, but it was not nice. She said, I think I'm above the law, and I'm not. Judge Berry is the person who thinks she's above the law with her arrogance and her biased ruling and opinions. I filed my appeal of right and a motion for a new trial based on errors of the trial and for ineffective assistance of counsel in front of Judge Berry, and she flat out denied me an evidentiary hearing and all my issues. The appeal court remanded me back to Judge Berry's court to hold an evidentiary hearing on ineffective assistance of counsel. I was raided to the county jail on a Thursday in 2008 for my hearing the next day on a Friday. Judge Berry postponed my hearing until the next following Friday. Instead of holding my hearing on the upcoming Friday, like she told my attorney she would, Judge Berry held the evidentiary hearing on the Thursday, not notifying my attorney to the change of the date, which everybody knows motions are held on Fridays. If my attorney wouldn't have been coming to visit me that Thursday to prep me for my hearing, he would not have known the hearing was moved up a date. My attorney rushes over to the courtroom and found out that Judge Berry was holding my hearing without him. My attorney was very upset. He was not notified of the date change. Judge Berry laughed and said, "You did not get the memo? Madam Prosecutor got it," and the whole courtroom laughed also. So the same hearing she denied me, the appeals court granted me. Judge Berry was holding the hearing without my attorney, catching him totally unprepared to hold the hearing without being able to present our witnesses. So he had to freestyle that day and didn't even have the proper questions for the lawyers who was on the stand, the trial lawyers who didn't do no work, and he wasn't able to get a proper cross-examination. So she sabotaged it. Judge Berry said she was making sure the defendant's constitutional rights wasn't being trampled over.
You have 1 minute remaining.